Okay, so I'm going to call the WSESD board to order at 6:03. The meeting of the WSESD will come to order. The meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or of the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by email. In the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary to time and place certain. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call votes in accordance with the law. So we do have a potentially busy agenda, so we're going to try to move forward as efficiently as possible, while also trying to do as much as we can. So the first thing that we will do is the clerk's report. Do we have a Michelle?
Can we make changes to the agenda first?
Okay, so you want to make a motion to amend the agenda?
Just to make sure that it's included, I want a motion to include on the agenda board development workshops. That would be part of to come before or part of our summer schedule conversation.
Okay. Okay. Did you?
I'd like to amend the agenda as well. And I'd like to put on hold the entire administrative report, which is point number 6. There are 4 reports. And the reason is because as a community member, long before becoming a board member, I was aware that all reports being sent to the board should be received a good 48 hours or more before. We received this evening 3.5 hours before tonight's meeting 4 reports, of which 1 I cannot open because it's not shared. And then a 5th report received 1 hour and 10 minutes before the meeting. So to receive 30 plus pages, 3.5 hours before a meeting is to view my time and my responsibility of oversight with disrespect. And so in order to eliminate any appearance of disrespect, we need to receive reports at a reasonable point when we can actually read them, evaluate them, review them. And that includes on tonight's agenda, the MTSS presentation. I'm sure that's going to be some kind of PowerPoint. And once again, I'd like to see it beforehand, even if I'm on shifting sand and unsure. At least I can begin to ground myself with an awareness of the information that's being provided. So again, a motion to put the administrative report and the 4 points under it on hold until the next meeting so that every board member can actually read every report that was sent this evening.
Okay, Tim?
I strongly support Deborah's motion. I was so surprised to see the panorama data survey come this time 4 hours before, when I made it clear last time that 2 hours was unacceptable. It's a common professional practice for school boards to receive the information, to receive data along with the agenda. It should be an agenda packet. So I would strongly urge this board to send out any documents that are going to be discussed in a meeting to come with the agenda at least 3 days before.
Okay, so it seems like we have 2 separate motions. And did you have another motion?
I want to add to that.
Okay, so I'm actually going to, because it seems like we need to address Michelle's motion first, and then I think we're just going to vote on it, and we'll just so Michelle's motion was to add
to add, board development, training and workshops as, to be taken up with or before our summer schedule planning.
Okay. So, oh, thank you. So that was Michelle and Tim second. All those in favor of Michelle's motion to add a brief part of board development around the summer session point on the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
No, and it's just because what Deborah just brought up, late timing.
Okay, so I guess we need to do a roll call. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
In favor of amending.
In favor of amending the motion
Yeah.
to include that.
And could the people online also
And
raise their hands,
and,
please?
Paul, can you let us know who's online?
Emily, Ann, and
Three hands up, so Deborah, are you voting no?
I'm voting no.
And,
Same.
okay, so that was Liz, Ann, and Emily online are voting for. Michelle voted for. Tim voted for, David voted for. And then Lana and Deborah and Sean voted against.
And Tim too.
No.
You
Oh, you
voted,
voted
did you,
for?
you
I
vote for?
voted for.
You voted
All
for,
right.
okay. So it passed, so, yes,
So Lana,
Deborah
Deborah
and Sean,
voted nay on the
Correct.
motion. Everybody else voted yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
correct. So we will add that to the agenda. So I believe Deborah has fleshed out her motion sufficiently. All those in favor, do we have a second?
Yes, discussion.
I think Tim seconded it before.
Did you second?
Yeah.
Okay, so then it was Deborah and Tim. All those in,
I think we need to have a brief discussion on that before we vote.
okay, 3-minute discussion.
I do hear the point, and I see that the agenda seems overwhelmingly full to even address all of these things in one meeting, but I just would like to know, I'm curious at how many people are present tonight, and worked really hard to meet the board's request to bring some of this information, and I just want to know what this feels like for you guys as we make this decision to completely put this off, especially because we don't have a summer schedule established, and the board may not meet again till August. And so if this is our last big meeting, that's something serious to take into consideration when everyone's put a lot of effort into bringing this to us.
I think the agenda topics are fluent. We've been talking about them throughout the year in terms of Aaron's Law. Keith has provided a presentation. Chris has on behalf of BUHS. So what I forwarded you today was a slideshow that elementary schools use in the work that they do with teachers to start a school year. We could certainly do that in August. That's fine. In terms of MTSS, I've tried to talk about MTSS every month of the school year. And that has been a part of every board report. So I was hoping for the opportunity to share the culmination of work that we have been doing to help prepare us for next year, which is essentially giving the framework of what MTSS actually is, and then giving you an opportunity to see what it looks like in terms of a building principal working with their staff to develop a plan to start the school year. Again, it's a fluent agenda topic. Tonight was to show the work that we've been doing all year long, and we could certainly present on it again in August and throughout the school year next year. But just simply looking for an opportunity to share some of the major work that we've done this school year. I had asked Keith Lyman to present on how he's rolled this work out with the middle school, because he's made some fairly drastic changes in how the school is going to be structured next year around instruction and collaboration. And I asked Mary Kaufman to present her MTSS work focusing on the elementary level. So just two examples of how that work has unfolded. It's a little different across schools, but I just wanted to give you a sense of how we're using data, what we're holding to be true to be super important to start a school year around clarity of what we're doing and how we're doing it and what we're using to do it when we're working with our kids. So again, we've presented on those throughout the year. I was looking at this as an opportunity to show the culminating work and how we're starting the school year next year. But I certainly think it's a topic that we will present on many more times.
So to speak to that, and I want to be able to appreciate and absorb the work that you're doing. And for me, the best way would be if I have time to actually adequately look at the material you've given me, because otherwise it's a little rushed and I'm not able to really give you the attention that your work deserves. And I really want to sit here with a, you know, all of the information in front of me and really be able to absorb everything you're doing. And I cannot do that if I don't have the information in an adequate amount of time, especially as a working mother. You know, everything is really crunched. So I have no time to even open the emails prior to this meeting.
Just for clarity's sake, the board reports that were submitted today, we're talking about the board reports for June, correct? The administrative board reports for June.
No, there's a
No.
whole series of
There's a whole
slideshows
series
and
of-
panorama reports and
Yeah,
And like I said, I haven't even opened the emails. Like that is like, you know,
Yeah.
rush to finish my job, rush to put some food in my kid's mouth and then rush to get here. And there's not a second in between to open those emails. And I would really love to do you the favor of actually viewing your work, coming with intelligent questions that are well formulated so that you get to shine, which I can't do in this environment.
so all I'm really asking is that it be put off to give me a chance to look at these reports that I printed out. I can't absorb it.
I'm gonna ask one question and then we're gonna vote. So is there anything in this, these that you've sent us that can't wait for a few weeks until we potentially have a meeting at, the end of July?
They could all wait. They literally could all wait. I would like the opportunity to share the MTSS work. I mean, I share at the last board meeting, I mentioned that as something we'd like to share. I've entrusted Keith and Mary to present their work. I don't have a formal presentation to give you. But through our conversations, I've asked them because of certain angles in which they were doing their work. Again, we could present on MTSS.
So did you,
many more times. We have already this year.
I really didn't get to, do too much poking into them either. Was what you sent us, was that anything on the MTSS or is it just on the other topics?
I was sent a number of questions a couple of weeks ago. I created a shared doc and asked folks to help in answering those questions.
But the MTSS presentation that you were anticipating giving, was that,
That was not in
okay.
that email.
So Deborah, would you be willing, would you be willing to amend your motion to include the other three things other than the MTSS? Which we wouldn't have, any of the emails that we got wouldn't be related to that?
So then it would be to amend the motion to exclude the MTSS from the motion.
That's my question.
Right. Sure. Sure. I'm.
It's your motion and it's not.
You know, I'm a little confused by this. And if the MTSS is simply sort of the moment that we're doing right now with no preliminary information to the board on this, on MTSS, so be it. So be it.
Is there a PowerPoint that goes with the MTSS presentation?
I have a handout and yes, there's a PowerPoint.
Okay, so again, as a matter of protocol,
Yep, so
this should be.
Okay, so
included with the-
if we hold this off for a few weeks, is it possible that you could send us the PowerPoint on the MTSS so that the board
handout.
could be more?
Handout now, I don't.
That's the issue. It's, so I would love the handout ahead of time.
Okay.
So can I
it's
just clarify, at any time we present to the board, you would like, because this is new, we haven't done this before. Anytime a school presents to the board, you would like our presentation
If you
beforehand.
have a presentation, yeah, it would be helpful. It would be helpful. Yes, please.
And for the people at home, a handout is not helpful, and it's not possible or useful, and the public doesn't get it until after the meeting, so the public is also.
It's just new to us because we just, I mean, we always just come and talk about our schools. And so we put a lot of work into what we did and at the very end of school. So today it feels like, oh, okay, but happy to send it along. I just want to be very clear, moving forward, every single time we put something together that we're sharing about our school, you need that 3 days in advance.
The agenda.
Yes. See, for me, as a community member, starting in August, I heard this request from board members again and again as information was coming to the board, if it could be presented 48 hours before. And the last time this happened, there was quite a to-do, an uproar that took place at a board meeting over this very same issue. So for me, this is not something new.
Okay, so now we're going to vote on this. So it was.
Someone has his hand up.
Call question, please.
Yep, so all those in favor of amending the agenda to postpone the administration report on the monthly report for school board, panorama climate survey update, Aaron's Law update, and MTSS presentation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Hey.
So we need a roll call. So all those in favor of amending the agenda to postpone those 4 items, please signify by saying aye. I'm sorry, please raise your hand. And anyone online?
I am seeing no raised hands online at this time.
Okay, so we have,
I think I see, Lana is actually in person, sorry. I see you online, so I just want to make sure you're counted.
so we have in favor, we have Lana and Deborah and Tim and David.
What did Emily say? Did Emily say what was?
So now we're taking roll call for opposed.
And now any opposed, please raise your hand.
Michelle, Emily, and Sean.
Should be 3 board members online.
I'm not seeing, oh, Ann got her hand up. And Liz is online. But
I'm abstaining from this.
Yes.
To give Emily accounted for?
Emily's had her hand up and Ann has her hand up
For no.
for the second, whatever the second one.
For abstentions, so this is when the chair does vote to make
No,
the
it's-
deciding factor.
It's 5-4.
It's 4, it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, okay.
Liz abstained.
It's abstained.
So 4-4 with 1 abstention is only 9 people. Oh, so you do have 3. Thank you.
Reading up on my Robert's rules.
Well, I guess I will vote to abstain, to abstain, vote to postpone it. If, I apologize, it's not really what I want to do, but I feel like if I guess I would like to give you an opportunity if there's anything that you do want, if we, a 10-minute opportunity, if there's anything that you wanted to say about it that, since I'm sure that you did prepare things, if there's anything you did want to say about it before we have a further presentation.
I guess I'll just say that I appreciate the opportunity and excited to present whenever the opportunity is there. And I think it includes a lot of the work we've done as an SU. So I'm excited about it, but I want to make sure people are feeling prepared for it. So that's fine with me. I think sometimes when we give this stuff out, it will help you understand, but it also may raise a lot of things that would be easily explained during the presentation. So there's a lot of educational jargon sometimes. And so when you're presenting it, a lot of the information just kind of comes out naturally. the PowerPoint for me is more of a just a guide. So, but I'll get it out to you.
Thank you. Thank you for
so
that.
much. I want to say how much I appreciate all of your hard work, and I really want to give it the attention it deserves. It does not make me happy to vote in the way that I did.
And hopefully when we can schedule this again, hopefully the board will come back with questions that will really be, help them to be informed. Yeah.
I just want to say to the point, Mary's point that this is a change having, when we've done presentations, which we've all done in different ways, shapes or forms, like I presented earlier in the fall about developmental designs, getting it in 3 days in advance is a really good goal. I just want to be honest and realistic about the kind of working environment we're in right now. If I had been Mary and had to have gotten something to you 3 days ago, it wouldn't have gotten to you because of last week. I had a major security event at my school. We are in situations where we are filling in all sorts of places with staffing shortages. We are in a very, we're in an environment that is unpredictable every day. And so to even predicting like, okay, today I'm going to have 2 or 3 hours to set aside to work on a slide deck that I'm sending to the board. Those days are over. They don't exist. So, we're doing that sometimes 4 a.m, is when that sometimes happens. And sometimes instead of doing that at 4 a.m, you're actually doing an update to families, about an issue, or you're communicating with staff, or just supporting staff members who really needed it. So I don't want there to be this disconnect, because we want this attention on our schools and we want to share what we're doing and invite that. But also, are often just living in the situation that with factors that are affecting schools locally and also affecting schools nationally. And without acknowledging that, and the hiring process that we've all been going through and the positions we still have open feels to be honest, it feels really difficult. So I really need this board to recognize that situation and understand that sometimes 3 days before may mean that a presentation doesn't happen, which is fine. I mean, that'll be what happens. But it is a shame to put off talking about our schools when we want to talk about it and we want to highlight what's going on, and we're excited about it, and welcome your feedback and want to get doing this work. So thank you.
Can I just say that this is not a hard and fast deadline. We meet twice a month, for sure. So there is that flexibility. If something were to come up that is critical, where the report comes into us for whatever reason at the last minute, that's something that we will address at that point. But if it's something that requires close scrutiny that actually can wait 2 weeks, I want those 2 weeks to scrutinize a report. So this is not hard and fast at all. I mean, that's my point of view as someone who's also been under that that deadline and doing an all-nighter to get something done. I really do appreciate that.
Just the other thing I just would like to say is, when you have 2 weeks, right, to determine the agenda and then to put presentations together, it's really a short amount of time. We don't have regular access to each other where we can all get together. These folks are working 10, 11 plus hour days, especially the last month of the school year. So I just want you to understand that reality. Like, we have a scheduled time where we do commit to working with each other once a month, where we're all in the room together. We have scheduled times where elementary principals spend time together, same as the BU6 campus. But to just put an agenda on the item put an item on the agenda and say, come together and put together a report in a small window, it's very difficult. So I think it speaks to the schedule that we've talked about for a long time in terms of the yearly planning and working together.
Sean's had his hand up for quite a while.
Yeah, Sean.
Yeah, I just kind of noticed, we received, the board received 7 emails from 11:58 today. And I think that's the genesis of the disagreement. So unfortunately, that's just how it happened. And personally, I voted no to the agenda change by a board member, but I voted yes the other way around. I voted yes, let us have the presentation by the administration. And I voted no, let's not change the agenda by a board member. So I think there's just a disconnect in terms of communication. And yeah, let it go at that. I appreciate what the administrators do. Thank you very much.
Okay, Tim, you have 2 seconds.
Never mind.
Okay, so we are going to move on then. To the
Excuse me,
consent.
Kelly,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
my internet is real. I keep getting kicked out of the meeting. So I'm going to reset my internet. It'll take a few minutes, but you go ahead, but just let me back into the meeting. Okay.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
So we're going to move on to the consent agenda. The clerk's report, the approval of minutes for June 7, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
David?
And I have an addendum.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
So that was David and Tim. And David?
The, at the June 7th meeting, we had a really excellent conversation about the EST process. And at the end, we sort of rushed to the end of it, and there was a question left hanging that didn't get a chance to get clarified. And I received some comments from people, or questions from people about whether students' parents have to be involved for them to be able to benefit from an EST. So I wrote to Mark and he sent a really excellent response. And I wanted to read that as an addendum to the minutes, even though it didn't get presented in the minutes, but so to clarify for the board and the public. So EST plans are fluid based on the needs of students and the resources we have available to meet those needs. Parents are always invited to meetings and informed of the support their children are receiving. If for whatever reason a parent cannot attend a meeting, this does not delay our work to support all of our kids. This is a proactive approach to supporting students that does not include the same rules and regulations of an IEP, which is a special education plan. So I want to thank Mark for that clarification and share it with everyone else.
Chair,
Yes.
I have a question. Since what Mr. Schultz just read wasn't mentioned at the last meeting, that wouldn't amend the 6-7 minutes. That would be.
He wants to
Addendum.
adapt.
Oh, addend. Okay, so that's something that I would add, I would put in these minutes, but they do or don't change the 6-7 minutes.
They, I don't know, but you can, it's an addendum and Barb will figure it out.
So all those in favor of approving the June 7, 2022 minutes with David's addendum, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, so they're approved. So now we are going to move on to public comment on non-agenda items. We're going to give 10 minutes to that. Anyone making a comment can expect a response that falls within one of the following categories. Receive an acknowledgement of the comment with no further action planned. Receive an immediate response by the board chair or administration. Administration would be directed to contact and respond to the person. Clarification sought from the administration for a specified meeting. The topic would be added to a specified future board agenda. The matter would be referred to an executive session or a public hearing would be held on the matter. Do we have anyone who would like to speak on non-agenda items? Okay, so I'm going to ask one more time if we have anyone, public comment on non-agenda items. Okay, thank you. We're going to move along to unfinished business, the sexual abuse investigation update. David, did you?
We haven't had an update from we've had the communication from the attorney, which we need to respond to, but no additional information.
Okay. So we're going to move along to the SRO Task Force recommendations update. Do we have any update on that, Mark?
I don't really have any more updates from the last meeting, but Cassie, do you want to talk a little bit about your meetings with the AWARE group?
So the students that served on the SRO study, and I met twice before the end of the school year, and we'll continue to do so in the fall. I actually have a few things going on over the summer in terms of hiring that I may reach out to a few of them to see if they would like to participate in that. But I think it's going to just be, continual work of meeting with those students, getting their perspective on things as we do with many different panels of students. And looking towards, making improvements at our school to just improve the overall climate. So that's really the only update I have at this time, but anything else I'm happy to share with you at a future meeting. Yeah.
The hiring discussions include the mental health counselor.
There's nothing posted for that position currently, but it could. I understand there are some conversations ongoing about, bringing on another social worker, and so I think that's in the process.
Can you just identify yourself for the people
I'm
on
sorry.
Zoom so that they?
Cassie Don Kaler, assistant principal at UHS.
And
I have a card.
last time we heard that there would be discussions about the budgetary factors in the counselor's position. Has there been any discussion since our last meeting?
There's been some discussions, but I don't have anything definitive to share tonight. There's some ideas in the works being developed with multiple colleagues at the high school.
So
Liz is back.
do we have anyone in the room who hands up? Okay, so we are going to move along to committee assignments. I'm not sure if we had anything in there to. Okay, so we're going to move along from there then. Okay. So we're going to move to the fiscal report. Frank, did we have anything that we needed? to address?
No, we reviewed the financial statements last meeting, and typically we just do that once a month. I will just mention that today I confirmed with the Agency of Ed that our budget reports are moving to the tax department, and our tax rate is going to be a little bit less than what we had projected in the annual report, based on those legislative changes that were signed by the governor just recently. So there's a quick update.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I knew that we were tabling some of the presentations, but is there an administrative report at all? Are it's the most important part of the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Was there any other administrative report other than that?
Hirings or resignations?
Yeah. Friday, the 17th, we had our VOHS graduation, which was lovely. The weather was perfect. The kids were great. Some terrific student speeches shared with the community. And it was nice to end on such a positive note. We've received a lot of negative press this year. And frankly, that's been frustrating. And I don't think deserving of our student body and the staff at that school. So I was happy to see there were some nice articles in today's paper. But we should be celebrating the resilience of our community, of our students, of our teachers. We've accomplished a lot this year, and I don't think it gets recognized enough. And our kids deserve that. They deserve it big time. So.
As our staff and administrators, thank you.
Sure. So it was nice to end on a really successful graduation. I know we had many graduations throughout last week, from elementary to BAMS on the Wednesday night. And we also had a undergrad awards night on the 15th and 14th, and then a senior night awards night as well, leading up to graduation. So kids are on break and we're not, but looking forward to getting some time off soon in July. I think this group needs it more than ever. The amount of hours that this school year has entailed has been more than any other I can ever remember. And there's been a lot of emergencies, a lot of stressful meetings, a lot of decisions that lots of people have different opinions on in regards to COVID. And a lot of that falls on the building principal. And it's not an easy task to hold the weight of your school community and try to, create clarity, create a sense of we got this when you have people screaming that you don't, and vice versa. So this group is an incredibly strong group, and they've had heroic performances this year in leading their school communities. So I'm happy to go on public saying that.
And you had a glorious night that night in terms of weather. It couldn't have been better. So congratulations. It was a lovely evening, a lovely celebration from beginning to end. Yeah.
Thank you. So we will move along to the new business. The summer meeting, oh, no, actually, we were before that, Michelle, you were going to briefly touch on.
Sure. I mean, so summer schedule, traditionally, right, anyway, we've taken July off, and then August would be a board retreat, and we'd get our organized for the next school year, although I've never experienced that as a board member because COVID hit my first day, the day before I actually became board member. Sitting on the SU board, we've been doing a lot of work, and I've connected with the VSVA and had Kelly come sit with me just to talk about having a facilitator come to our board retreat so that all of us could participate. And we talked about what that might look like. But also the SU board, is working, we work with the superintendent, and that's our oversight. And there's been a lot of conversations about what we can be doing to support the superintendent's office in being successful. And actually, I think that what just happened right now is a really great example of a lot of disconnect, and that where we don't have organized systems in place where we're all on the same page and we have the same expectations, where we decide together what are goals, how are we going to reach them. So the VSVA had came together. They've spent quite a few hours talking about our different needs. And if I did send out really just for reference, so this is, it doesn't make a difference. We could have this conversation without the information. But they had some workshops that they sort of put together that they thought might help in that process. And actually, when I just looked, I saw right away what the board and individual members need from the superintendent, and what the superintendent needs from the board is covered under the first workshop. And so I am asking for this board, as we discussed it, and we just started taking it up ourselves, it's pretty clear that the SD board is 95% of the students of our supervisory union are here, and a lot of the work, curriculum and whatnot is happening here. And so I think when we think about our summer schedule, I'm hoping that this board will welcome and adopt these strategizing some of this foundational workshops that will allow us to collaborate with our administrators and start systematizing how we work together so that we can have shared goals and expectations, so we can decide what are our priorities and how do we reach them, instead of having every agenda packed. Set a schedule for, if we're going to address climate survey, how do we do that, and what's reasonable, and how often will we hear from you? And I think that this is the foundation was these workshops that I forwarded for you guys to review. So that's what I'm putting on your radar. I would go ahead and make a motion that this board approve working with the VSVA and scheduling these workshops, or board training and development. It's foundational work, but I see it as necessary in supporting our superintendent's office so that he can be successful, and it will trickle right down the line. And that's what I'm sharing.
So we have a number of other items on the, that need to be addressed. I'm not sure if the best way is-
Is there a second?
Yeah, I think that Michelle-
Best way, just send an email
And
around.
I mean, we know we're gonna have to we'd have to approve a bunch of policies because we've got so many and the committee's gonna be meeting all the way through. And I think there are probably some, well, there's a whole list of things that we didn't finish that didn't get handled this year. So I think it's more a
Wait a minute, I
question.
think it may be something.
I think we're still hanging out here though. Are we
With a motion.
in the?
Oh, you made a
Making
motion?
motion?
Well, I did. I said I would go ahead and make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that.
The board,
So,
go into consultation with the VSVA and work on what is the word I'm looking for? Contracting with the VSVA to do board developmental workshops over for our summer training.
is there a second?
No, I'd just like to say that I remember Ann, somebody made a motion at a meeting that I did not attend. I think it was March 8th. And Ann said, that's not on the agenda. You can't make that.
But we did it in the beginning, which is what was the deal. And actually, it was only an oversight because Kelly was going to have this on the agenda. So when you add it to the beginning of the meeting, it's formally added and we can take action, but not later in the meeting.
All right.
Right.
Thank you for paying attention to that, Sean. So Michelle made a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you, Lana. So, Michelle,
I have a question.
sure.
I have a question. Is the VSVA the only source of workshops for the board? I know as March hit, we've all been involved in a number of VSVA workshops. And I'm not discounting that. I mean, they've been excellent or reasonable. Yeah, it's been mixed review. Yes, absolutely. So what I'm asking, based upon prior experience, is the VSVA the only source of resource for board retreat workshops?
No, in fact, Lana and Tim have been, and to a lesser extent, Kelly and I have been in contact with Mel Motel about doing some restorative work with the board. She's a professional in the field and highly regarded local person, and also helping us understand the concept of restorative practices in the schools. So that's something that we're actually in the process of trying to schedule. So that's not the only thing, but they do have the SU board is going to be working with the VSVA, and it just, because of the way the merger changed the structure of things, we have this part over here that's Vernon that isn't here, but it is in the SU. So the things that have to do with superintendents and the things that have to do with like district, well, a lot of things are at the SU board. And it makes a lot of sense for us to try and put those things together.
With the VSBA?
Yeah.
With the VSBA.
But there's not a dollar figure and we're not committed. I mean, the memo from Michelle came today too. So taking action on that would be kind of
Well, there is a dollar figure attached to it, and it is in collaboration with the SU board. Because I recognize, and I think Mark did too, that this work needs to be done here on this scale. And it is foundational, it is helping us strategically work together. And they do know Vermont laws, they know the system. I mean, I think what you're talking about, restorative work, go to someone who specializes in that. That's great. And this is what the VSBA specializes in, is how to support boards in being effective in their work and their relationships with their administrative team. And I saw what just happened now, and I could feel the tension in there. I feel it. And, wouldn't it be nice if we had a strategic system in place, an order of operations, so that there's no surprises. We understand what's expected ahead of time, and then we're all on the same page from here on out. And then it's anticipated, and we don't have this back and forth at every meeting where people feel slighted in what's new today. I think it's the path to being an effective board and for our administrators to be effective in their work. And when I look at what it entails, it is really looks fun.
Well, I'd love to read it beforehand. I haven't had a chance to read it. I mean, it just came in today. Again, same issue.
Liz has it. Table it to the next meeting?
I don't think we could do that since we don't know when the next meeting is. That's my concern, is that.
So we're going to talk about that here.
I do think that, and that's why I said they go hand in hand. We don't have to, right? I mean, this is summertime is a good time to do the training. Mark and I have talked about the admins, they have a retreat, the board's supposed to have a retreat. What if we had a retreat together afterwards? But we sort of have to do our own work and get our ducks in a row. And then, and that's my vision anyway, it's my hope.
Can we
Well,
table it
I'm
until we
gonna-
know what the date?
Let Liz make her comment or question beforehand, and then we'll address. Liz?
I'm concerned that if we put this off to a date uncertain, that we won't get the training in. I don't know how far ahead you have to work with the VSVA to have the training done. And that worries me because we can all see there's a lot of problems, and it's really nobody's fault because nobody's been really trained in it. So unless we're having a meeting like the end of July or early August, I would want to address it tonight so we can be sure to have the training and be good to go before the school year starts.
So can we table this until after we address the summer meeting schedule?
Sure.
So, Lana, you were the second. So are you okay with that?
Okay with that.
Okay, so we're going to table this for a few minutes and actually, so the summer meeting schedule. I'll just read the whole thing.
No, because a bunch of them are already there. But we know we're going to have, we're going to be talking about the sex abuse communication plan. So that'll be an executive session. That doesn't have to be in a regular meeting. It can be separate. We know we're going to have policies. We're going to be working on a calendar of meeting topics with Mark over the summer that the board's going to have to approve. We just got the SRO, the panorama report. We're going to want to talk about that. The reflections on goals, and which is what you're talking about, reflection on goals for the year. That's also needs to happen. We've been talking about a leadership council summit with the principals and the leadership council chairs. So it's not necessarily a business meeting, but it's another meeting that has to happen in the summer. And at some point, actually, well, that wouldn't be. And then other reports, like we were going to get a full report on recruitment when we talk about recruitment, and Julianne and others mentioned building our own and that there are steps and things in place, but we never did come back around to that. So that's undone work. And then, doesn't look like that's going to happen. So there are a lot of things that we'll need to do, but I think the only really straightforward business is creating a calendar and approving policies as we get them done.
So I don't know whether this is appropriate or not, but I move that we continue meeting on our schedule twice a month through the summer. It seems to me there's a lot on our agenda that you just went through. And I don't, I don't see how we can take July off personally, given the amount of work we have to do. Collaboratively.
Yeah, it was one thing, I had the hand up. We just heard from Mark that they would like to have some time. So the 12th is the first Tuesday in September. And it's a few weeks away.
July?
July, yeah, right. The months are hard to keep straight. But the 19th is that would be almost a month of relief and not having to do these things. And it would still, if we needed to have 2 July meetings, we still could, but that would allow a lot of policies to get done ahead of time and other things to happen as well. Plus, it would allow Kelly to be here because she's not around on the 12th. So if we met once in July and then and planned on 2 in August. And again, we're going to be fitting with the things that Michelle's talking about in there and the Mel Motel in there. And probably, well, maybe not, but I expect that we'll be doing some work around the communications plan around sexual abuse. So there's stuff that's on our agenda that's not going to go away just because it's summer.
Michelle?
I'll just say, like you just said, there will be things that are going to come up that we can't avoid, and having to keep moving and meetings that aren't formalized agendas that require administrators to come. Personally, I made my July plans. We usually go on vacation in August. I've changed that for the board so that I could be present for August. And so and also personally, I need a break. And I think a lot of other people do too. I've done nothing but school board with more minutes than I have available. And I know there's still work to be done that we won't get a break from. And I anticipated hopefully that we would be doing some board trainings and some things that would help us. Some of the topics that you mentioned, I feel a little bit, it goes in hand with these trainings because it's kind of like putting the cart in front of the horse. Like, how much better can we address these if we have some clarity and a plan of a process with, with Mark and his team on how to get the results from these conversations and these things that are so important that need to be on the agenda. So knowing that there's training that we can't avoid in July, that there'll be executive sessions that we probably can't avoid. And maybe even, I think a formal meeting, I don't want to ask any of our administrators to have to attend in July. Mark, sorry, you don't count as that person now. You might have no choice. But that, and anyone, you're welcome. I'm not saying you're all welcome to attend. But I'm just thinking about the sake of having a formal agenda meeting. I think everyone could use a little break and regroup and reorganize, and so that we can approach the next school year with as prepared as possible, and really start trying to be more effective. But I appreciate the passion. It's hard to let it go. It feels like a lot all the time, and we will still see each other. But that's my 2 cents. I don't know that I will have availability. I have several family vacations planned in July.
So I'm going to mention one thing. So just as we have done, not that it's the ideal, but just as we have done early on where we had to meet, every week, if we took the first 2 weeks off, the first week being the week of the holiday and the second week, and we met on the 19th, that wouldn't preclude us, if we absolutely had to, from meeting on the 26th. If that's what, and I guess I would also like to maybe send out this list to the board, and maybe each person could look at things and try to figure out, I'm looking at a list, but maybe you all have ideas on the policies and what that really means. And this one particular line here on the paper looks kind of scary, but having someone, maybe being Deborah, you being on the policy committee, looking at it, you would have a better idea of, okay, well, what does this really mean? How can we make a plan for these sort of things? I guess having this list doesn't really help us much unless we're able to take the list and make a plan. So I guess that would be my hope. And then from that plan, then we can actually, look at what we actually need for the time. Does that make any sense?
What list are you referring
Yeah.
to?
It's a list of summer things, topics for the board and it was essentially outlined. It wasn't anything that was sent out to you. It was sort of a list I have. But it was actually, David had gone through.
Kind of an example of communication and having time to give a thoughtful response to what's
Some of
being
these,
asked.
my feeling is some of these are sort of the board stuff that the board has to do, and not necessarily stuff. We might have stuff to do ahead of time before coming to you. Like the policy committee may have things to do.
Yeah, I think that's why
before
Kelly referenced me as chair of the policy committee.
Right. So the policy committee may have some work that's sort of represented in here in my list. Before coming to you with things, because your time is precious, just like everybody else's. And we would want to make sure that Deborah would want to make sure that she has all the things done that needs to be done in order to come to you with a good copy of whatever it is she's trying to, bring to you.
So my understanding, and we'll confirm this the policy committee members who are Tim, David, Sean, and Liz, and myself. My understanding is that we have already agreed to meet through the summer, to meet once every 2 weeks. There's a backlog of policies that are mandated, that are on Barb's to-do list that must be addressed immediately, as well as a backlog that's been raised by board members. So if you just look at the agenda that's online right now from the policy committee, it's ridiculous. It's my to-do list, or it's our to-do list. It's not mine. It's our to-do list. there's a lot of background work that needs to be done by the policy committee before we're ready to bring it forward. And I think it's been a learning curve for all of us on the policy committee. We have one policy to present tonight, and then a whole slew of others that I thought would be a shoo-in and are not. It's required going for legal advice about language and whatnot. So that all has to take place before it's ready to be presented. So regarding the schedule of July, in terms of a full board meeting, I think the policy committee is fine with whatever is decided tonight in terms of our backlog of work.
Okay, and Liz?
Okay, it doesn't matter to me when we meet, because if we go away, I can just like plug in. But I want to see us get everything done before the next school year starts. And that backlog must be pretty big by now, because we kept having to put things off. So even if we have to meet like once or twice in July and maybe 3 times in August, just to get things done so we can start the year with a clean slate. That, in my opinion, that's the way to go. Is just, we'll get together, we'll take care of what we need to take care of so we can start the school year fresh.
Question about the policies. Sorry. I mean, I have it on school board. I've had.
Okay, no, I'm sorry, you're out of order.
Okay.
So can we?
Is there an admin on there?
We'll discuss it.
I'm just wondering.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're out of order. Thank you. So, do we want to set some sort of a schedule, or do we want to?
I guess this goes back to my motion on maybe doing our foundational workshops that I think will help us structure and organize a system so that next summer this isn't a conversation. We'll have something anticipated. I mean, I think that's the idea.
Okay, so we actually have an executive session at 7 o'clock that we need to enter into. So do we want to table this until after the executive session? Okay. Okay, so
Table the policy.
table the
policy as well.
Oh,
Policy be
Yeah, the rest of the agenda.
Yeah,
okay, well,
right.
that's okay. And then Tim, are you willing to table the representative to the student rep board? Okay, so we're tabling those 3 items until we come back from executive session. So does anyone want to make a motion for the board to go into executive session based on after making a specific finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage?
Sold.
Second, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, David and Tim. All those in favor of going into executive session as stated, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we actually have 4 executive sessions.
You inviting anyone in?
Don, we have 2 that are under 1 VSA 313A1E pending or probably civil litigation or prosecution to which the public body is or may be a party. And one of those we are inviting Mark into. So we're going, well,
Yeah, let's do it first.
okay, so, and then we have another that 1 VSA 313A3, which is the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee, provided that the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public officer or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reasons for its final decision during the open meeting. And the final one is 1 VSA 313A3, the appointment or employment of public officer or employee, provided that the public body shall make a, Sorry, the 4th one is 1 VSA 313 A1E, pending or probably civil litigation or prosecution to which the public body is or may be a party.
And, could we
So-
invite Superintendent Spino? Oh, we need the motion first?
So is there a motion to go into executive session for those 4 items?
Second.
Deborah and David, all those in favor of entering executive session for those 4 items, inviting Mark into 2 of those executive sessions and Dr. Overtree into 1 of them. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we will enter into executive session at 7:03. We are back from executive session at 8:53. And David, did you want to read those motions?
Yes, the first is to approve the recommendation of the Student Advisory Committee regarding student representatives to the board.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. So David and Michelle, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, it's late and I'm a little tired. The motion's to approve the recommendations of the Student Advisory Committee.
Regarding student representatives to the school board.
Thank you, Vice Chair Scholes.
Actually, Scholes.
Scholes, I'm
We
sorry.
pronounce the C. It's okay. Next.
Next.
Okay. I move that we approve the recommendation approve the administrative recommendation regarding student placement as presented.
is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Liz. So David and Liz, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
And the third is I move to approve the administrative recommendation regarding appointment or employment of a public official as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
David and Michelle, thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. So now that we have taken care of all the executive session items, summer meeting schedule, we're back to that. Michelle tabled her item while we were dealing with the summer meeting schedule. I propose that we take the first 2 weeks of July off and then start out on the 19th and have a meeting on the 19th. I don't know if that's not making an actual motion, but that would be.
You want to, did you make that?
Well, I didn't specifically make a motion about the summer schedule. My motion was to collaborate with the Supervisory Union Board and the Vermont School Board Association in adopting.
Yeah, I thought you were, I didn't know if you had made the motion to have a meeting on the 19th or not.
Yeah, so I think mine comes first then. Do we want to start with that first?
Yep. So
Because we can pull each other and fine tune that schedule. They sent a sample schedule based on what they knew to be available. And I would want everyone to participate. Like I said, I know some of us have, I made vacation plans specifically in July.
okay, so why don't you, can you restate the motion again?
I will amend possibly the wording once you have I motion that the WSESD board collaborates with the WSESU board in contracting with the VSVA to do board development workshops series.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so Michelle and David, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now we go on to, do we need to go further on the summer meeting schedule? Do we? Could
We
just
might
do-
want to anticipate the trying to get back to our regular second and fourth meetings. Second and fourth Tuesday meetings if we want, that we could try and start them again. And we haven't been on that schedule for how many months, Wendy?
Yeah, it got a little messy after April.
Since you've been most inconvenienced by it.
Thank you. I think April may have been the last month.
Yeah,
that
the
you
last one we actually
consistently
hit our target. Yeah.
during those times. Yeah, because May was when I had to miss and then follow up later because it was a week I didn't think we were meeting and my dad came up from Florida.
Yeah, so we're.
That was more
we're-
information you
yeah.
probably needed.
But but three, more than 3 months of
So
Of
if
not
I
having regular-
may, if I may, I'm just thinking about, first, I guess I'm wondering about, when we just decide on this, this is just for our formal board agenda meetings. We're not, and we will work out like with the poll
Right.
system, the other trainings. Okay. And then traditionally, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, the board retreat is usually the first meeting in August. That has kind of been this.
There is no
We
usual.
don't really-
Yeah.
Right, we've only had like 2 COVID summers, so I know, so just so as an FYI, I know that, I have it in my calendar, I know the administrators are having their retreat from August 15th to 17th. And the Mark had suggested that, maybe we would be ready to have a joint, it could be a 1 day, but just a joint retreat, I give for lack of better words, with administrators. Not to replace our own board retreat or whatever we want. And it's quite possible we decide our workshops do the work of what a retreat is, and we don't need to do that. But so just as putting that in your mind, when we think about our summer schedule, if we're pushing off to August, that what would have been the second week, the second meeting week, is the week that Mark was proposing, that perhaps we'd be in a better position to have a board admin co-retreat or something.
So yeah, it's the second one.
That would be a board meeting week.
Well, they're retreating this week.
And that very well
So
might have,
we met,
working on
So-
goals and stuff.
they're retreating the week of the 15th. And so if we did the week of the 9th, where we would have had a meeting scheduled on the 9th, Tuesday, the 9th, because it's second Tuesday. If we had our retreat in there, and it might be that Tuesday or it might not, we have to schedule it. And then we would have a retreat with them the week of the 22nd and 23rd, which would be our second meeting of the month. So we already are, would struggle to meet on the second and fourth Tuesdays. So maybe we shouldn't try to set a meeting date right now, and except we want to have a retreat during the week of the 8th, be intentional about that. And then see where.
Maybe as we revisit the workshop
And
schedule.
we may
that-
have a whole bunch of just, there may be some point where it makes sense to have a meeting around the policies and just convene a meeting when we need to have it.
Mhm.
Because we just need a quorum. Everybody doesn't have to come to those, although it's a good
Right.
idea if people do. So nothing firm in August. Then.
Yeah, I guess for me, I feel like we need to have a better sense of this list and what is actually, what's that, like, what it's gonna entail, like timing is, do we need a whole meeting on, like, how much time is actually represented in this list? So that for me, maybe other people's brains work differently, but for me, I'm trying to
It's
figure
already
out.
slipped from my head since I only heard it.
Well, and I can send out the list, but I'm trying to get a,
And people, actually, maybe that's the thing to do, is send that out, because that's a brainstorm list, just a bunch of things that overlap the boards. And then have people, if there are other things that you feel like we need to deal with. Because some of these things that we didn't get to, like where is it, the recruitment is kind of an ongoing issue, but that's something we do want to hear about. We really want to focus on. It's a really important issue that kind of is on the back burner now. And
But some-
maybe we'll put that off.
and
maybe
some
not.
of these might take more time and some less time, and so just, I think that's trying to get a handle on that may be helpful to figure out what we will need for time in the summer. So I'll send them. Yes, Liz?
What about everything we haven't gotten to this year? Is that on your list?
Well,
Because
there
we
are a
just
few,
put
a
off
couple of-
everybody.
Well,
We
Liz,
just
what
put
I-
off everything.
Liz, what I'll do
Yeah.
is I will send this list out and I will invite people to respond with anything that they feel hasn't been addressed. And you know, maybe there are some things that are not addressed but don't have a summer priority. Maybe there are some things that they just want to keep in mind going, you know, in
I would also recommend, I mean, I think that it might be appropriate, Mark might be at some of these workshops with us because it's about creating systems that work and support him. And but having him be part of that list so that he knows, because he might have insight on time, and that's the type of communications we want to get going.
Yeah, ask him what else we need.
Yeah, if we really want to hear about this, we're not getting clear, and that's the kind of the whole point, is like, how do we set a goal and how much time do you need, and but creating a predictable schedule with expectations and whatnot. So it's not just putting everything away, it's about, you know, it's about
So,
tackling it with some.
Some of it's already being like
That's really what it's about.
checked off. Okay,
So can I ask, why aren't we finalizing a schedule in August for VSVA workshops right now? I mean, are those workshops, webinars?
So no, they'll be in person, they will come down here,
Got
and
it.
there is, and actually the Mark's
Because
mentor
I just
will
saw
come down.
I just saw it this afternoon and didn't memorize the dates.
I ha-
I need to look at it.
Yep.
There
I
are
can-
options for everyone.
Oh, I see.
If we tried to do that together, it would take us all night.
Oh, yeah. I can, these dates, I didn't have this information until.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best.
Okay.
Participate.
If we-
Specific date.
Oh, wait,
If we
one
want,
at a time.
if we could agree as a board, it's all been sent to every board member. It was just of suggested dates based on the availability of the VSVA. There's several options. If people could get back to me and weigh in on their availability, I would love to make it so that everybody could be at all of them to some capacity. We probably will have to have a hybrid option, although they're going to come down and do it in person. But if these dates, if we could look ahead and more or less know that these are going to work, it's then great. And the other thing too is, you know, there's other, as we get to know each other and do this work, we might determine that we want to customize this a little bit. They're totally flexible. If we want to get into like the policy governance and whatnot. And they just recommend, you know, spacing it out, giving everyone a break and letting things take order. So if everyone could look at those dates and just communicate back with me, if there are dates that absolutely cannot work for them, then I can look into other options and we can spread them out a little bit more. It's just a sample, just a sample based on what they knew they had for availability.
Okay, all right. Okay, so.
And the sooner the better, so you can book them.
Okay, so I have a question about that, because I'm looking at this right now. You've got 4 categories down.
Yep.
With dates. So are you looking for us to plug into each of the 4?
Yes.
You are.
If you,
Okay.
the document that I sent out
Right.
was intentional governance proposal, and it kind of gives you a outline. And again, it's just, it can be developed and fine tuned as they continue to work with us and get to know our needs. And then each of those ones, he threw out a possible date so that we're getting the work done. They're all, I think he said about 3 hours long is what they anticipate. If I remember, I think that's in the proposal. Yeah, 3 hours. And like I said, I believe Mark and his mentor would be participating in those with us. Because it's about working together. So there's a few people to be multiple people to organize scheduling with. I can already see one of them doesn't work for me.
Are we all ready to move on from this topic to? Okay, so we are moving on. Now, student representative to the WSESD board, we have already made, motion has been made, so that's been addressed. The last item on the agenda is the Policy and Amendment Committee. Policy B3 Board Conflict of Interest Review updated first reading. Do we need to read through it, or is it just?
No, it's
just on the-
posted, everybody's received it, right?
Everybody's
Yep.
received it. It's
Yep.
on the agenda. And so the next 10 days enables the community to assess and review. B3, if there are any objections or comments, please email any one of the board members or any one of the committee members. And at the
I had
next,
something,
yes,
I had something on that board, conflict of interest. See if I can find it. It's the first, I believe it's the first page, and it speaks about, let me find it here. Ah. Okay, I can't find it. I can't get to it easily, but I was thinking about, let's see. If if we have to meet an executive session about something, and one of us has a conflict of interest in this, like this past year, there was a recommendation for a student from Putney
Okay,
Central.
Liz, I'm not sure, I'm not sure that it's appropriate to speak on.
Okay, well.
Specific, not specific. I don't think-
If let's say something comes up and we meet in executive session and it pertains to somebody like we know or are related to. If you come out at the beginning of that conversation, then you've blown the neutrality. So when it came up for my family, I emailed David and I didn't contribute and I didn't vote. And I think we need to add that in there so that there's a proper procedure. You would notify the chair and then you would remain silent through the whatever we talked about. Is that making sense? Because that wasn't included in what they had there on the page. I actually emailed it to you.
Yeah, that makes
David
sense. You're
and
talking
Kelly.
about the protocol for recusing yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I don't know if it goes in the policy or not, but it wouldn't hurt.
Okay, so at this point, there is a concern that's been raised. And this has been the first reading. We're in the first 10-day period. But it seems to me, based upon what Liz is raising, that this has to go back to the policy committee for consideration again.
Would you wait the 10 days to see if there's any other
Yeah.
public comment, and then once
We would
there,
come back,
once,
yeah.
because if you address that there, and then you put it out, and then there would have otherwise been more public comment.
So we'll do a second reading.
So
does this
So it-
count as the first reading?
Yes, if we decide to change it, then we would do a second
At
reading.
second reading. So with the first reading, with the understanding that now we have to have a second reading, we're not in a 10-day period at all.
No, we're not gonna, well, if we're saying we're good, the committee's gonna take that up, then we're
Yes.
not gonna bring this to the board for action.
Got it. Okay, so then the way it's left at this point is this comes up again for consideration at the next policy meeting.
Yeah, this change.
Okay, so Liz, with what you just said this evening.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Because of the late hour right now, can you put that in writing, please? That would be
Yep.
very
Yeah.
helpful.
Liz, I can
Will
forward
do.
her, I can forward your email to her if you'd like.
That would be great. Thanks.
I have an email.
Okay, thank you. Great. Okay.
Right on.
Okay, so we are moving right along.
You can declare us adjourned.
So it looks like we have done everything that we had on the agenda. So Anne,
Madam Chair, there being no further business before this board, I move that we adjourn.
is there a second?
Second.
So there are multiple, but we'll take Liz. Thank you. And all those in favor of adjourning at 9:12, please signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned at 9:12. Thank you.